Hello, this is John Miller, the creator of this podcast. Now, the Rest of Everest is probably the most in-depth look at just what it takes to climb the world's highest peak. But keep in mind that it is a series. And if you're checking out the podcast for the first time, do yourself a favor, go back to episode 0 and watch everything in order. That's really the right way to enjoy it. Thanks so much.
This is the Rest of Everest video podcast, an almost unabridged expedition experience.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Rest of Everest. I'm John Miller. Well, I've been on what turned out to be a 4-month-long sabbatical. Hope I didn't scare anyone into thinking I'd had another medical emergency like the last time I took a few months off. Nope, this time it was simply due to a lack of time. As all of you know, I'll be returning to Nepal for most of the month of May in order to trek up to Everest's Southside Base Camp to film more material for the show. I couldn't be more excited, especially since I'll be joined by a number of Rest of Everest viewers this time. I'll also be joined by Chris Marquardt, the producer for Tips from the Top Floor. Together we'll be conducting a photography workshop as we trek up to Everest. Well, I opened up registration for the trek on October 1st, and amazingly, the trip sold out in under 1 minute. I'm pretty happy about that, and it became pretty obvious to me that there's a lot of interest from all of you to see Everest and experience the cultures of Nepal firsthand. I know it's going to be an amazing experience, and everything I film on the trek will become future episodes of the podcast. We'll see how it all goes, and well, if everything works out, then I may organize a similar trip in 2010. But that trek is in the future, and so here in the present, I'm kicking off Season 3 of the Rest of Everest with a special series I'm calling Beyond Everest. All of you know my dear friend Ben Clarke, and you've watched him summit Everest. Well, it was an extremely large accomplishment, and it may seem like the pinnacle of any climber's career. Well, over the past few years, Ben has set his sights on other Himalayan peaks. In the spring of 2008, Ben and his climbing partners Josh Butson and Tim Clarke attempted to summit a peak in the western half of Nepal called Annapurna IV. This time I gave the team an HD camcorder, lots of batteries, and lots of blank tape to film their entire expedition. Well, the footage they returned home with tells the full story of their Annapurna IV climb, and much like previous episodes of the podcast, the footage shows that there's just so much more to the experience than attaining the summit. In fact, the team were unable to summit Annapurna IV due to extreme avalanche danger. Well, while they cannot show us all what it was like to be on top of the peak, they will be able to show us a climbing style that's very different from the Everest climb and known as alpine style. No fixed ropes, no Sherpa teammates to carry supplies up the mountain, and most importantly, no rescue if there's an accident. What you will see is a group of close friends who are also talented mountaineers experience all of the trials and tribulations, successes and failures, tough decisions, and even tougher climbing conditions on a Himalayan expedition to a remote and largely unknown peak. Oh yeah, and they even brought their skis along and carried them up the mountain for some truly out-of-bounds skiing. I'm really excited to bring all of you this Beyond Everest series, and I think you'll find it completely engrossing. We'll bring the show back to its mountaineering roots and get reacquainted with Ben while introducing Josh and Tim. There's so much more to climbing in the Himalayas than simply climbing Everest, so rope up. The Annapurna IV expedition begins next week. Thanks so much. The Rest of Everest is downloaded all over the world every week. If you enjoy watching and would like to show your support, then take a look at my website. Aside from having lots of additional blog entries from the expedition updated every week, there's this little donation button on every page. Now, many of you have pressed that button, and your generous contributions are helping to cover my hosting fees. If you haven't donated but would like to, then just contribute any amount. In return, I'll give you access to the video and audio dispatches I sent out while we were actually at Everest. It's pretty interesting stuff. Contribute $25 or more, and I'll even throw in an iPod-compatible version of the film Everest: The Other Side. That's the project the entire podcast here is based on. As always, our announcer is Marlon May, and our music is provided by Wendy Wu. Check her out at wendywoo.com.
Thank you for watching The Rest of Everest. For more information on the expedition, please visit therestofeverest.com.